Youngpreneurs Podcast, episode number 145 with your host, Victor Apenny. What's up, world? Another day, another podcast, and today I got Mike Slane, who is from Houses Sold Easy, and he has got a pretty cool story. Did the typical journey that a lot of us do, went down the university path, and then has found his niche sitting in the property world. He's got a super cool story on how he's had some massive growth and is helping a ton of people get into their dream properties, whether that be investments or otherwise, and has an absolute ton of value for you out there looking to start your own businesses or get into the property market, or a combination of both. Got off this call really inspired and had an absolute ball. We've got links to everything we talk about in the show and full show notes at passiveincomeyoung.com/EP145. If you want to subscribe, if you enjoy the episode, jump over to iTunes or your podcast player, hit subscribe, leave a rating and a review, as I love sharing the message with more people in the world. So guys, in the meantime, grab a pen and paper. There's a ton of value. Look forward to seeing you on the other side. And in the meantime, guys, keep living life on your own terms.
You're listening to the Youngpreneurs Podcast, the number one resource online for under 35-year-olds, where we chat twice a week to the most inspiring entrepreneurs in the world. We have it all. If you're looking for inspiration, guidance, or actionable tips to help you transition from that job into a business, or if you're ready to take that business to a whole new level, then this is the place to be. Get ready to live life on your own terms.
Youngpreneurs, welcome to another episode of the Youngpreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Victor Apenny, and it is an absolute honor that you've chosen to take some time out of your day to spend it with myself and our awesome guest today, Mike Slane from Discount Property Investors. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Victor. I appreciate it, man. It's great to be on.
It's. I know we're going to have a hell of a good time. We've already kind of covered everything off air from one thing to another, and but I'd love to get a bit of an insight before we even get into the kind of the discount property side of things. Have you always been, I guess, business and entrepreneurial minded? What did growing up look like for you? What were your influences like? Was this something that was always on the cards from day one?
Not even close. So I feel like a lot of people have entrepreneurship in their blood and in their family, and that wasn't ever my story. That wasn't ever my vision for myself growing up. I grew up in a pretty comfortable middle class suburb in St. Louis, Missouri here. And I mean, had a decent life. Parents provided for us. They split up and whatever, pretty typical nowadays. But both of them worked corporate jobs. Grandparents, they worked corporate jobs. All my aunts and uncles, corporate jobs. I think one of them, when I was probably in college, ended up starting his own company. But other than that, I mean, there's really no entrepreneurship bug in the family or in our, in my household. There's no one that really inspired me like, oh, I should think outside the box. It was always go to school, get a college job, and then go work for a company, and you'll save up and you'll be able to retire. And that's just kind of what you do.
And so is that what you did? And was there a turning point somewhere that kind of was like, that was exactly what I did. So I never knew. And I guess I always had that question in my brain of, what do I want to do when I grow up? What do I want to do as an adult? What do I want to do? And I think that's a constant struggle for all of us. Right. So I did that. I went to school, in the, I don't know what you guys call it, but I went to college, university, finished that, got a job. So I studied marketing in college, and I found that pretty interesting. Studied economics, so what do I call it, double major or something like that. Graduated and didn't ever get it. Just look for a job, something to do until I figured out what I wanted to do. So I started in an insurance company. It was a great job, had great benefits. I mean, it really was, what I guess my goal was, or my thought was for my life, just go to school, get a job, and, just do that. But it wasn't what I wanted when I got there. So I worked in life insurance for the better part of probably 6-8 years. Ended up being a life insurance underwriter. And what that means is I would look at people's medical records and then place them into the correct rating. So if they were standard or preferred, or if they were substandard, they had to pay a little extra premium for the life insurance. And after, I don't know, several years of that, I mean, you kind of get to know what's happening in a corporate gig. You go to work, you work your 40 hours a week, and you do everything right, and you can expect your annual review. At the annual review time, you would get your bonus, or your raise, rather, your merit increase. Well, I don't know what year it was. I mean, so you expected about 4% if you were in the top tier. And I always ended up being top tier as a good worker, hard worker. I guess it was one year the company didn't meet the right metrics. So the merit increases were going to be lower, even if you were in the top tier. It was like, I don't know, I think it was maybe 2% instead of 4% raise.
Yeah.
So I'm going in, I'm working, and at this point, I'm probably working 60 hours a week. So, I mean, I'm working, a lot for someone else. And they're telling me that they're not giving me that increase that, I felt like, I kind of earned it. Yeah, I've earned it, right? So that was just kind of like a straw that broke the camel's back. And it was, I think, less than 6 weeks later, I decided I was going to quit. Now, there is some groundwork I laid for myself before that. It was, real estate has always been an interest of mine. I would never say it was a passion, but it was always an interest of mine. That idea of buying a house, single family house here in the U.S., and then having someone else pay off the mortgage and pay you a little bit extra. So, I mean, that to me was just always like, what a great idea. I want to do that. So, laying the groundwork for being able to quit, that was what I did in the interim. It was paying off my student loans, paying off all my credit card debt, living below my means as much as possible to just put myself in a position where I could say, I don't want to do this anymore. And I did. So.
Nice. And so with that transition, was there worry with that transition? Was there like, shit, in 6 weeks I'm out? Or you just like, I can, worst comes to worst, I can go get another job at another insurance company and stuff it, I'll just go hard.
Well, yeah, there's a ton of worry. I mean, I definitely, so let's talk about that then, this transition to being an entrepreneur. My thought was I'm going to jump into real estate full time. So I had bought a couple properties and I was being the landlord manager of a few properties here. And I had enough passive income to pay my bills, which were very low because I bought very, very deeply discounted properties. So the one I was living.
What era, what time of, like, what years was this when this was happening?
So, and again, this had a lot to do with just being my age. So I graduated college, worked for a few years, and then it was right around 2008 and 9 when I started buying properties.
Yeah.
So it was right after kind of the crash. So people were all worried and all this, and it was more difficult to get a loan on the properties, but the prices on a lot of them had dropped significantly. So I was able to go and buy HUD homes. So these are the ones that have been, I guess, foreclosed on. So I was able to buy these properties at unbelievable prices.
Yeah.
So what we talk about, I mean, I consider some of them, I mean, let's just call it $100,000 value. I was probably buying them for 30 to 40,000. So 40 cents on the dollar ish. And that's about what they're worth again today, is closer to the 100. So yeah, it's really, really good.
And so you had sorry, I'll let you get back.
No, keep going.
Yeah, because I mean, it's such the interesting thing where, although, a lot of people go, property doubles. Like, the biggest myth in property is property doubles every 7 to 10 years, is, what the spruikers will say, which is, to a degree true. It's just they don't mention that 2/3 of that time it's going down or sideways. And, and you're not like, it's not, my mentor says it's not the time in the market, it's timing the market. It's,
absolutely.
You can buy at 30 cents of the dollar and it goes back up to 100K and you've doubled or tripled your money, whereas you could have bought it at 100K, or at 80K, and had gone down for 3 years, and then it had gone back up to 100K, and you're like, yes, I made $20,000, but really you had that opportunity cost and all the the things that go along with that. But I'll let you get back to your kind of transitions. You had your kind of living costs covered. How did you keep getting deposits and things from there?
Yeah, so I didn't. So I had my living costs covered because I had a couple people paying me rent, and I had. I'd worked several years, like I said, in the corporate job. And I was a saver. So I had a good chunk of change to sit on. So when I quit, I didn't have an income, but I did have the mindset that I was going to flip houses. So there was this technique called wholesaling. And it's basically where you buy a house, or rather you put a contract on a house. You don't actually close on it. And then you find someone else to buy the house for a little bit more and have them close on the same day.
Yep.
And you get paid the difference between those. So we call it the AB and the BC side of the transaction. So your AB side, let's say you buy it for $100,000, and your BC side, well, let's use the $100,000 ARV. So like the value of the house. So my AB contract, I'd buy it for, let's say, $50,000. Then I'd find somebody who would buy it for $60,000. They still get $40,000 worth of equity instantly when they purchase it, my C buyer, but I get paid $10,000 for finding them a deal.
Yeah.
So it's basically middling properties. It's finding really good deals for other landlords or rehabbers that are looking for a decent deal on a property to, like I said, either rent out or fix up and flip themselves. So I had never done that, but I had connected with a mentor in the U.S. and was following everything that he said and just taking action on it. And I was doing it part-time while I was thinking of quitting, and put in my notice and was ready to quit. Had never done a deal, but that was the plan. I said, this is what I'm going to do, and that's it. So, that's basically what I did. Just quit the job and was going to be a wholesaler full time.
So it's cool. Do they have? Australia, you basically can't do that because you're just going to get raped, I guess, with taxes because they have a capital gains tax that you pay. You pay a percentage, and you're going to pay that straight away on any profits you make. And there's the kind of the thing in Australia that if you hold it for 12 months, you get a 50% discount in the tax that you pay. But if you're flipping and you do 3 in a year, it's better than doing 1 to get a 50% tax discount. But they also have stamp duty, which is basically a purchase tax, which is you might be paying $10,000-$20,000 on a $300,000 home at date of signing. So it doesn't matter if you're doing a simultaneous settlement. If you take ownership of the house, you pay it. So that that kind of that percentage that you make can get massively diluted unless you've bought significantly lower.
Right. And so then there's another option. And again, I don't know the Australian legal system at all. But basic contract law in the U.S. allows us to assign our interest in a contract.
Yep.
So let's say like I said, I contract the AB property. Would you be able to then assign it to the end buyer for a fee? So then you're not actually taking title. No, you can't do that.
Nah, you can do vendor finance where you take an option over the property, say for $1, that you've got the right but not the obligation to own this property for $100,000, and then you can find somebody else, and they may rent off you for a higher time. So you may have the option for 5 years to buy it off them for $100,000, the owners, and then you may put a tenant in there and they pay more than the mortgage, and you get an extra bit. They show the bank that they've actually got serviceability, so they're a self-employed person who writes everything off in tax, and then you can sell it to them. You can say to them, you can have it for $150,000 at any point along the way, and then you never actually have ownership. So it's a contract over it, but it's a really annoying. You can do it in New Zealand, what you were talking about, but it's just a really annoying facet of Australia that
you really just have to be. We have buyers agents and sellers agent, like
Mm-hmm.
different to what the States do, in the sense that you go to a buyer's agent and say, can you find me a deal that I can put 4 properties onto? More so than, I think, over in the States you have buyer's agents and who work with you as the buyer, and sellers agents who work on the other end. So you could kind of get if you wanted to make money from finder's fees, basically, you could work as a buyer's agent and then wholesale it to them. You just can't do the kind of simultaneous settlements and have any control over it to do it, which is obviously frustrating, because a lot of young entrepreneurs want to get into property and learn the things, and they want to do low to no money down things to build up their equity, because equity is the hard thing to get initially. But obviously it seems like you've done. Is that still the strategy that you use at the moment?
It is. So currently, we're doing 2 different things, really. One of them is the wholesaling. So the company that we've got here, so my education company is called Discount Property Investor, and that's actually the sales side of it. The company that is kind of the parent company of that is called House Sold Easy, and that is our primary goal, is to make it easy for individuals to sell a house. So providing them liquidity in an otherwise unliquid asset.
Yep.
So that means, again, we're buying usually for a little bit of a discount, but we then, again, we're either going to put some money into it and flip it, or we're going to, like I said, wholesale it. So we'll buy it and do minimal work, flip it on the same day. Currently, we have bank financing in place, so any of our offers we can close on with cash. So it's not a necessity for us to do that double close like you said you're unable to do there.
Yeah.
But it is much easier. I mean, it's, again, I like the double closes. They're fun. I mean, when you can line up a deal on the same day, that's the fun part of what we do. And we still do a lot of that. So then the other side of it is, now we're kind of helping other people do or learn to do what I was just talking about, which is that wholesaling.
And
so it's it's fun.
And so with your side of it, how many deals over the years do you feel have you done?
Victor, that's a really good question. I guess we'll go back to when I first started, and I mentioned I had never done a deal and I quit my job, right? Well, it probably took me the better part of 6 months before I ever did one.
Yeah.
And that was a steep learning curve. I'm not going to say I was an overnight success. A lot of guys that we're teaching now, I mean, they'll pick it up and they'll be able to do a deal in the first 30 days. It's not uncommon. But no, it took me about 6 months of pounding the pavement and, I mean, really working at all the things. But I also feel like I was kind of overcoming a mindset shift as well. So my story was, there was no entrepreneurship background in my life. So I was used to that punching the clock, or you go in and you work 8 hours a day and 10 hours a day, maybe, if you had to get some stuff done. And that was it. So the entrepreneurship, or the entrepreneurial mindset, is quite a bit different, which is, it doesn't matter when I have to get the work done. I have to get the work done. Like, I've got to put in the effort. And a lot of it is putting in the effort up front to get paid on the back end.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that you're going to go down a lot of roads that may not lead to payoff. So, I mean, I've done that too. I mean, we've created tons of different things that just haven't worked out.
The 100 deals that you look at for the one that's going to make you the money. It's the 99 you turn away that actually make you the money, not the... And that's what a lot of people aren't willing to... And again, it goes back to the mindset side of things that you're looking at. You're going, well, I've looked at 5 properties this weekend. Why haven't I found the one that's going to... I give up. Property's too hard. If someone else has got it easy. And that's that. Or people go, all right, that one will do. I'll buy it. I lost money. Property's too hard.
Exactly. That's a very well said, and it's similar to, and again, because I don't know the legal system over there. When I heard you say you can't do it, I'm just thinking, man, I kind of wonder how I can do it. Mindset shift is like, I bet I can do it. I mean, there's got to be a way to do it. So it is. It really is just a mindset.
Yeah, like I say, you can be the buyer's agent From a contractual point of view, though, it's it's doable in New Zealand. It's not. I mean, one of my other friends who I've interviewed on here, he made a lot of money in the New Zealand property market. Now he kind of just invests around the world, but he did exactly what you're talking about, the wholesaling or the equivalent in New Zealand, and did $110,000 profit in 2 weeks, basically, of like, found it, knew it was undervalued, put it out to a list. Hey, I've got this property. It's going to be really good value at this price. It was still a good investment at the price that he sold it at, made $110,000 and didn't have to put $1 down of his own. And so it's amazing. Like,
those wins are the ones that are fun to hear about too. And they're the ones that we love to share. We did I think $110,000 deal earlier this year. And yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, to think that you can do that. And our main thing though is creating win-wins. So it's a win for the property seller because they needed to get out. So it's a price that was fair. They just needed to get liquid. Then the buyer, they got a great deal on a property they're going to rehab and probably make twice that. And we're making a big check in the middle. So again, we always try to think win-win-win. And it's just, those are the fun deals though. I'm sorry I interrupted.
No. That's the thing that I love about the show, is just talking to people and hopefully inspiring those who are out there listening, that like, you don't have to be this superstar savant to do property. It's like, literally, if you can hold a calculator and do a few sums and are willing to put in some elbow grease and do some work and learn, you're going to be able to do this. Like, there's nothing that is... Everybody can go out and buy a property. Everyone knows that. You can all go out and buy a property. If you learn a little bit more than the average, you can buy a good investment property and make these amazing things, particularly with leverage. Like, if you're using a bank loan, all right, here's 20% bank, and then you give me the other 80, and then the property goes up 10%, but I get to make money on your money as well. Whereas,
absolutely, man. That's exactly. There's so many ways to make money in real estate, and that's what is so interesting about it. And again, like we kind of say, you may not be able to necessarily wholesale as simply as we can here in the U.S., but there's probably still 100 ways to make money in real estate investing. Over there as well. And I mean, I'm exaggerating. There's about 10 different real estate investing techniques that we kind of talk about and say, hey, if you get good at this one niche, you can make a decent amount of money in real estate investing. So,
I mean, that's the thing, like, you'd know, and I know people have made 6 and 7 figures buying and holding, flipping, subdividing, doing developments, doing vendor finance, doing one of
the neatest ones now that I've seen. So I'm sure you've seen it in kind of hot little cities. So the U.S., we're pretty spread out. In St. Louis in particular, it's the market I live and work in. It's very spread out. So we've got plenty of space, but then there's hot pockets. So like there's a real nice area that everybody's wanting to get into, and we call them pop tops. So basically it's a small single family home that you'll buy with the intent of tearing the roof off and adding a second level on it. So you're basically doubling the square footage. So you can turn that $100,000 property into a $200,000. I mean, just like that. You're doubling the square footage. So it's pretty fun. It's pretty neat to see those projects. And those are big projects for the advanced rehabber for sure. But they're
smart and neat, advanced, but it's being a project manager. It's knowing what you need to do. And I spoke to kind of the queen of education when it comes to doing renovations and flips in Australia. She's kind of the personality and runs the courses and things like that. She's like, I will let a person pick up a paintbrush and a hammer once for one property if they feel like they need to get it out of their system, because everyone I love doing a bit of DIY and handy, until it's 12 weeks in and you've been working a job and you're like, and you both hate each other. But she basically says, I'll let you do it once. If you do it twice, you're not an investor. Don't talk to me. You're wasting your time.
It's a great way to look at it. My personal opinion is if you're over 30 and you're swinging a hammer, you're in and you consider yourself a real estate investor, you're not doing it right. You should definitely, again, it's a lot of the work is backbreaking. It's labor intensive. Don't do that. I mean,
exactly. Find someone, if you haven't got the money, find a money partner who can, you give them a percentage of the profit so you can hire people to get it done quicker.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So with your business, if we were to kind of fast forward into the next 2 years, what does it look like? And what is your goals? What's your aspirations? Where do you see it going and growing? What wakes you up in the morning?
Well, right now it's the education piece. So we are doing, a significant amount of wholesaling. So on an average month, and I'm always pretty conservative, but we're getting much better at tracking our numbers. So we're probably averaging 15 properties a month that we are buying and reselling. And I call it wholesaling. Some of them we are closing on, and then, like I said, kind of doing a little fix up and then reselling. Yep. We're averaging about 15 properties a month between the group. And currently there's probably about 10 of us here that I would say, are really, really in the project full time. And some of them are contract. A lot of them are, 1099 or contract employees. So they're not really employees. So we're doing a lot of flipping. And again, as we turn that more into a business, I take my hands off of that piece of it a little bit more. Yeah. So I'm moving over to more of the education piece and teaching other people how to get started. And that's what's really fun for me right now. That's what's keeping me getting up. And again, I know we've got a little time difference, so I'm getting up super early because I want to talk about it. I want to share that. I want to get that out there. And we're putting together, we've got a ton of courses already built. We're building some more courses. We've got a coaching program. And it's just fun to see people learn and get it and get their first check. Last week, we had somebody come out to the office and they just took our free wholesale course. So we've also got free products out there for people to get started as well. We've taken a lot from real estate and we're happy to give back. So if you're interested, you can check it out. It's called freewholesalecourse.com. But we had a student went through that course, insists that she doesn't get it and wants to learn more. And I get that, but we just wrote her a check for $15,000 from one property. So we partnered on it. We JV'd on it. And that was, I believe, like a 50-50 split. And again, she got a check for $15,000 earlier this week. So, if you can not get it and make that kind of check once a month, you're doing all right,
Yeah,
so
I'd really like to not get that more often.
Yeah, exactly.
And everything that I'm doing, I'll set up 4 different businesses that I don't get, and then they can don't get me $15,000 each into my bank account. But it's the amazing power of taking, like, there was something earlier that you said that was like a lot earlier, that when you were leaving your job, you kind of learnt some things, but you were just like, this is what I'm going to do, which is great, positive affirmations and all the rest of that stuff. But it was more and I'm going to take action on it. That's how it's going to happen. And a lot of people were like, this is what I'm going to do. And then nothing happens because they don't take action on it, and fear and all the other things that come in.
And that's the absolute most important thing in real estate. And I think just being an entrepreneur, I say real estate because that is entrepreneurship to me. That's been my journey. But it's taking massive action. It's Grant Cardone, right?
Yeah.
He's the one, 10X. Isn't that 10X?
Yeah.
That's always that in the back of my mind is the most accurate way to sum up entrepreneurship. If you think you're going to do something, you can do it a little and you're going to get very little results. If you do it 10 times as much, you apply 10 times as much effort to it, you're going to get the results that you had expected.
Yeah.
So it is all about massive action. Yeah. Hugely important.
Everyone wants a full-time result from a part-time effort, which is, but it's funny. I chatted to Grant on the show and it was about 3:00 in the morning for me.
Oh yeah.
I didn't sleep for about the next 3 hours because I was freaking jacked.
I bet, man.
I was like, man, I got to take action. Like, oh shit, I've also got to sleep because I can't I can't 10x my waking hours. It's probably the only thing that I can't 10x. But that's super cool. So into the future, actually, I want to just touch on. You said you kind of got about 10 plus or minus staff or people working with you. How did that come about? Was that just a natural progression of demand, or was it like deliberate, looking forward into growth? Like, hey, this is where we're going to need people. We need to get them in now so we can fulfill our potential in that space, because it's something that a lot of people out there listening are either starting or working towards something on their journey. And it starts off as one person or a partnership of two people. And we learn all these things on how to grow, scale, create funnels, all these other different things. But then it's like the actual hiring people and getting a team and structuring that team. So was it, just talk us through, I guess, what it looked like, and was it a natural kind of progression?
Yeah, again, I wish it was a natural thing, and I wish I could say it was easy, but it has its hiccups too and its challenges. So as a wholesaler, you're developing relationships with people. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you're developing relationships with people. So as I was learning, I was buying and selling properties, and some of my repeat clients, one of them in particular, his name is Bill Merritt, he was wanting to get an office space, and he said, let's talk about getting a mastermind of just some real estate investors. We'll get them all in the same office, and we'll be able to bounce ideas off each other. We'll be able to do more business just by being in close proximity to each other. And as we started looking for space together and talking more and working more and more closely together, we said, you know what, maybe we should just team up and be able to take it to the next level. So we started laying out the groundwork for that. One thing led to another. We met one of his other previous partners, a guy named Ray Bartle, was also doing some wholesaling, doing some rehabbing, and said, let's bring him in. Let's see if he's interested. He said, oh yeah, I'm definitely interested, and was kind of a shock because we thought he had a great business of his own. Why would he want to join forces? Then we met another guy, and similar story. He's a younger guy like myself, just started in wholesaling, was just tearing it up. And the four of us then eventually said, you know what, let's just combine forces, combine all of our marketing effort, combine all of our stuff, and we'll see how it goes. So we took step one, which was getting the office together. Step two, okay, we're really going to go in on this, and we're going to share everything. We're going to share expenses. We're going to share marketing budget. So there are four owners of my current company of Household Easy, and that was my baby. That was the one that I had started. Basically sold the name as part of the combined efforts. And yeah, I mean, so there's four owners. Then we said, you know what, we need more boots on the ground. We've got to have people helping us day in, day out, going out to look at more properties. We can't look at all the leads that we're generating. We need other people to go out there and help us. So that's where I talk about the 1099 people. So we've got probably a team of about 6 others that go out and look at properties for us and are paid pretty handsomely if they get something under contract. We've got 3 office staff members now that help us. So yeah, I mean, there you go. It's 13-ish. I mean, yeah, our team it's big, and it just keeps growing. So, but the hiccups, I mean, yeah, it's payouts, and well, what about this scenario, and what about this, and things always come up, and there's personality issues that come up. But yeah, again, it's all part of the journey of building a company, and it's been fun, and we're still having fun. That's the main thing that every one of us takes pretty seriously, is if we're not having fun and enjoying what we're doing, then we shouldn't be doing it. We definitely want the right person doing the right piece of the business.
Yeah.
So,
and that's a really cool thing, because it's something that I've learned recently in a couple of the ventures that I'm doing. Is like, I've just teamed up with people, because I'm like I said, I can't 10x my hours, but what I can do is make 50% of something instead of 100% of nothing, because it's just going to freaking take me.
You've got it spot on, man. We just did our podcast, the Discount Property Investor Podcast. We just did an episode called Teamwork Makes the Dream Work. And what we talked about was the pie. Like, you can have 100% of a small pie, but I would rather have a small slice of a gigantic pie. So by having team members and leveraging other people's time and using their resources, as well as them using, you contributing, you can create a much larger pie. And I'd rather have a piece of a much larger pie than the whole McDonald's 50-cent little pie or whatever the equivalent is for there.
Yeah. It's pretty much that, which is, and so I'd say to a lot of people out there, because you come across, and you'd come across the same, a lot of people thinking about starting or jumping in, and like they want to do everything themselves. They've got like this, it's mine. I created the idea, and I've had to go through this as well. So I'm sure many others listening as well. But then you're like, shit, I've got so much stuff to do, and so much stuff is outside my fun zone. Like, I like doing this. Why don't I get somebody with a complementary skill set, and then we can make stuff happen? It's not a linear, and you don't get double the amount of output with 2 people. You get or 4 people or whatever. You get it's 8 times the amount of output, because you're a lot more focused in doing things that are your strength. So I think a very, very good point for everyone out there listening. But I want to get off you. You're obviously educating a lot of these future property tycoons, or these people on their journeys. What are some of the generic, like a couple of the generic points that you continually see on a bad side of things that people can learn from if they're looking to start out their property journey, or things that hold people back?
Yeah, the biggest thing is always fear, is analysis paralysis and fear. So it's, well, what if I make an offer and it's not a good property? Or what if I do this and this? And that what if game is what I'm saying is the fear. So what if I send mail and they don't call? Well, then you're going to send more mail, and I'm telling you, if you send mail, they're going to call. Like, what if I put up bandit signs and nobody call? Well, they're going to call. Like, it's going to happen. Like, you just do it. So that's the biggest thing, is just the mindset of the fear mindset. You have to get over that and just start taking massive action, and you're going to get results. It's pretty simple. So, that's pretty much it. Just go out there and do stuff, Again, you find somebody who is doing it, and again, make sure they're credible, vet them, and see if they're actually doing what they say they're doing. If they are, listen to them. There's no reason not to. Yeah. Somebody who's successful is telling you, hey, you want to be successful? You should try this. Like, it just makes sense. So.
And so, a couple of questions to kind of wind up. What does a normal day look like for you, if there's such a thing?
Oh man, I don't think there is a normal day. So, it could be anything. So I wake up, I get up pretty early. I'm always been a pretty early person. So get up maybe 6 a.m., 7 a.m., try to work out 3 days a week. Then I'll head into the office, and I'll either work on a lot of the marketing. That's kind of my piece of the business. I do a lot of the marketing, record a podcast, maybe go out, look at a property, help other people with their properties. So some of the zone guys will bring in some of the leads they've got. I'll answer questions, coach them along on what to do, work on developing contracts. So there is no normal day. Then obviously we meet with the management team here. We go over financials, what our plans are. We do planning meetings. So unfortunately, there's no normal day for me, Victor. We're all over the place.
Yeah, you're not the first with that kind of answer.
Yeah, I wish there was a normal day, but no, I don't. I love what I do. I love being able to do different stuff all the time.
That underwriting job's there if you're after that normal day. That normal day again, it's calling your name.
Well played, and that's not at its best. Yeah.
And if there was a book or resource outside of your own that you'd recommend to anyone out there listening, doesn't have to be property, can be anything that's kind of had a big influence on you, what would it be?
Yeah, there's so many of them. And I think before we started, we chatted on the Rich Dad book. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, obviously a great place to start if you're interested in real estate. But the one that I think for an entrepreneur is a real good book it's called Traction. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I've heard of it, and I'm going to add it to my.
You need to. So It's all about the EOS system, or the entrepreneurial operating system, and that really helps you step out of being a solopreneur, and it helps you see that there needs to be certain roles for certain people in the company. It's called right person, right seat, as well as giving you a lot of the structure that that I think that you should implement if you're trying to run a business, as opposed to, I call it solopreneurship.
Yep.
And that's just one guy wearing so many hats, and it's a struggle. It's a challenge every day. But if you're building a team and really building a company, that book is worth reading. I mean, you absolutely have to read. It's a must read. So
Good.
Traction.
It's added to my audiobook list because
Excellent. Well, and I'll tell you this. It's and you guys did a great job putting the book together. If anybody hears this has any association with it, it's very dry.
Yeah.
I mean, it is very, very dry, but again, it's all content. So, I mean, that's what you're.
That's what I want. That's what I want.
Yeah.
You listen to enough books and you're like, man, that was a waste. Oh, I listen. I barely read, but I'm like, man, that was a waste of 4 hours of my life, because it was all fluff and nothing hugely actionable. And that's what I want. So
those motivation ones are good sometimes too, though. You know, if they've got good motivational behind them, then it's worth it. But.
Yeah, no, I agree. So we're gonna wrap up there. I just want to thank you for coming on and joining the Youngpreneurs family. If people want to get in touch, find out more, where can they go and what can they do?
Absolutely, Victor. Thank you so much for having me. And I think I had mentioned we do a show called the Discount Property Investor Podcast. They can check that out. There's a discountpropertyinvestorpodcast.com. There you'll find links to the show as well as my contact info, so they can reach out there.
Awesome. We'll link all of that at passiveincomeyoung.com. We can also find all our past episodes. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to just keeping this going and popping on over when I'm to visit all the deals when I'm over in the US.
Absolutely, man. If you're ever in the Midwest, come on by. We'd love to have you in the office.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks for listening to the Youngpreneurs podcast. This was proudly brought to you by the Podcast Institute, the #1 training resource to take your business from chasing leads to leads chasing you, and from an absolute amateur to a full-blown authority. If you're looking to take your business to the next level, then a podcast is the obvious answer. You can get national and global exposure in a very fast time, and it's just exactly what I've done with this podcast. So if you want to find out more, get a checklist on how you can get started for under $60, and to find out more through a small training video that I've prepared for you all, then please check out passiveincomeyoung.com/podcast training.